Ready to level up in 2025? Tune into Branding with Bex for insightful conversations, captivating guests, and practical tips. Whether you're on a walk, in the car, or getting ready in the morning, grab your headphones and let's dive into the world of branding together. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Branding with Bex. It's your host Bex here. I'm so excited you decided to join me today. If you're new, welcome. If you've been hanging out with me for a while, thanks for tuning in this week. We have an awesome episode ready for you today. We are interviewing and sitting down with my friends Mal and Isabel. I actually met these girls a few years back at a Turning Point event, and since then we've really stayed in touch through social media. Mal actually runs her own podcast called The Other Girls Podcast, and Isabel makes frequent appearances on this show. On today's episode, we dive into a lot of different topics, from politics to owning your own podcast to a lot of these different areas of life. Everybody's very multifaceted in a world where people are constantly trying to put us in a box. This episode is one if you are looking to maybe put yourself out there and start a podcast, maybe talk about how you feel about a variety of topics online if you're scared to do so. It's just a really great opportunity to sit down and have a little girl talk. Before we dive into the episode, I actually wanted to read my devotional from today. So I am actually editing this podcast on January 30th. I'm wearing something different than I am in the interviews. This was today's devotional, and it actually really applies to the podcast, and I'll explain why in a second. Worship me only. Whatever occupies your mind the most becomes your God. Worries, if indulged, develop into idols. Anxiety gains a life of its own, parasitically infesting your mind. Break free from this bondage by affirming your trust in me and refreshing yourself in my presence. What goes on in your mind is invisible, undetectable to other people. But I read your thoughts continually, searching for evidence of trust in me. I rejoice when your mind turns toward me. Guard your thoughts diligently. Good thought choices will keep you close to me. This is Psalm 112:7, 1 Corinthians 13:11, and Psalm 139:23 through 24. This really applies to a lot of the concepts we talk about in the podcast today. That's one of the reasons why I really wanted to share it. We are discussing the concept of putting yourself out there, the anxiety and the feelings that you may get when you realize that there will be people that will disagree with you and will let you know that, and maybe not the nicest way. We also talk about the topic of having these false idols, and this applies, I think, in any industry that you're in. You see people really looking up to celebrities, worshiping what they do, or worshiping a political commentator, and really looking at the content that they're sharing and taking it at face value and not doing their own research, not thinking for themselves. And we see this across, I would say, the political spectrum. There's people that really are into celebrity gossip and look up to them and do whatever they tell them to do. I think it's so important to have this conversation, especially as we're growing in this ever-changing landscape with social media on the rise, influencers, celebrities, a lot of pop culture happenings, a lot of political happenings. And ultimately, how you give your attention and how you allocate your time really does make a difference in your life. On today's podcast, we're sitting down with two of my close friends, and we're going to dive into this and more. It does say that, it says Isabel Rojas' device storage is running low. You might not have enough storage.
I'm sorry. Oh.
Okay, well, we're going to try. It's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. It's going to work out.
Sometimes you'll be able to get her audio even if it doesn't. Like, this happens sometimes, but it should be okay.
Wait, I'm going to offload some of my apps. Sorry, guys. 1 second, okay? I'm going to offload. We don't need to find my... Hold on. I got y'all. I need to get iCloud. That's like my birthday gift to myself.
Yeah, it's a game changer. I have an insane amount of pictures on my phone.
I need to do that, but I don't know my password.
Okay. All right, well, we're just going to get started with the episode. Thank you both so much for taking the time to join me on my podcast. I'm really excited for you to sit down and meet my audience today. So to give the audience a little background, can you share a little bit about you, what you do, and also anything about Those Other Girls podcast that you feel like using in the introduction?
Okay, I'll go first. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I'm fighting a cough, so I'm going to try not to cough into the mic. So 1 second.
Nice mic, Mel.
So sorry. So Those Are the Girls podcast. It's called Those Are the Girls with Mallory and Friends. I'm the Mallory and the Mallory and Friends. And essentially we talk about life, career, relationships, and pop culture from a Christian conservative perspective. And we just talk about any and everything. My heart behind it is to have like a fun girly pop podcast that you can listen to. There's not going to be a bunch of cursing. It's not going to be a bunch of like this was my sexual thing last night, and let me tell you all about it. And reflects like my values. Because I knew like I wanted something like that at the time when I started it. Call Her Daddy was the number one podcast, and I was trying to get into podcasts. I was like, okay, what's a fun girly podcast I can listen to? And I mean, I couldn't find one. So then I was like, you know what, whatever, I'll start it myself. So that's how it started. That's like my heart behind it, and just kind of like a place where Christian conservative girlies, and honestly, you don't even have to be like, there's people who listen that don't identify as Christian or conservative, but like just a place where like us girlies can come together, have good, meaningful conversations, laugh a little bit, be serious sometimes. I'm working on doing more meetups. We did a tea party 2 years ago that was like a huge success.
Yeah,
it was so fun. I want to do more of that because like the audience is really spread out. Like I'll get messages from people from all over the country, and like people are wanting like a community. They're wanting to be around people who have similar values and who, watched The Substance and thought it was very interesting, but they, don't want to watch Euphoria. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. But like,
that is such a needed niche, I would say. I can definitely relate to that when you listen to some of these podcasts where they're viral, they're trending, everybody says to tune in, and then you listen and you're like, oh gosh, what am I listening to? You want to be a part of pop culture conversations, and you don't want to just like close yourself out from that area. So I think it's great that you are combining your personal values and beliefs with things that are trending and relevant, and it's not a podcast where it's just about one thing. You're streaming in all of these different avenues, which is awesome. So you're welcome. We actually met at a Turning Point event in person, and like you mentioned, I think that the sense of community is something that people really crave. We see it with social media in some aspects where people are really putting themselves out there online in hopes that it will help to foster and grow a community. But I do think there are a lot of people that would benefit from not being so scared to engage online. One thing that we're seeing with the people that are a little bit more outgoing and more eager to talk online, that they are more likely to post, and then the people that are maybe on the sidelines just kind of looking in, they're more likely to attend these in-person events because they then feel like they're a part of something and a part of something bigger. I think one of the trends we're really going to see in 2025 is the return of in-person events. It's been way too many years of people not going to them and doing all these virtual things. While it's great that you can keep the conversation and the community going on a virtual space, I think bringing people in real life makes such a big difference. We see each other on social media, but it just makes such a big difference when you actually get to meet that person in real life. The same thing happened with Isabel and myself too. We were Instagram friends before going to a Turning Point event together, and then like meeting up there. So it really helps to strengthen that friendship and the relationship, and also make you feel like you're not alone with your community. You've done such a great job of creating that sense of community where there's other girls out there like you. I use those other girls. There's other girls out there like you.
Good job, Mel.
Want to talk about these topics, but maybe have a little bit of a different perspective when it comes to their values and how they would like to discuss these topics. Versus a lot of what we're seeing, I think, online from some of these creators that people tell you to go and watch. So Isabel, did you know you always wanted to jump in with podcasting too, or was this something you kind of joined in along the way?
Honestly, no. I'm like, honestly, no. But I am, a self-proclaimed yapper. And, it's interesting when I met Mal at a Turning Point Music. And that's where we all met. And I don't know, I just gravitated towards both of you guys. Like, obviously, Bex, I met you online before I met you in person. And then with Mal, I don't know if we were even following each other. But I don't know, like, obviously both of you guys just had a very warm, welcoming spirit. And I think it was in the midst of, like, post-COVID. I lost so many friends online. Like, everybody was canceling me left and right. I was like, I'm gonna come to Instagram and have like 2 friends left. I was like, whatever. And I was just really craving community, craving friendship. And whenever you guys, I think Mal, I saw you, I think I was ordering pizza or something at the cafe. Yeah, at the Gaylord, and I was like, hey, she looks nice. And I think we commented on each other's like shoes or something. Yeah. And then from there on, we just stuck to each other like glue. And it was just awesome. And she was like, yeah, I have a podcast, blah blah blah, and you should come as a guest. But she thought I was playing, and then literally after the trip, I was like, "Hey Mel, like, can I be on your podcast?" So I like invited myself because I thought it'd be fun, and I was already thinking like Instagram stories and pictures. You can only say so much, and people always, you don't get really the full picture of what someone's trying to say. So I think podcast is a much better representation of expressing yourself, expressing your thoughts, your ideas. Because, and I think when you interviewed me first, Becca, I was like, yeah, I just feel like I really like the community aspect of it. But with Instagram, you're only limited to so many stories and reels
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So I think it's a good starting point. But if you really want to share your thoughts and ideas, it's always better to just get on a podcast and record. So it just kind of evolved into that. And then I was kind of Mal's co-host, and now just trying to get back into the co-host game and inviting myself when I can. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like you do reach like an additional layer with your audience where you're able to connect so much deeper about a variety of topics. With social media, it's almost gone from something that has been primarily first was supposed to be a social platform to then it became like super curated images where everybody was so conscious of what they were sharing because they wanted it to be like a perfect feed or a perfect like account. I see it's shifting a little bit back too, where people are starting to really want the more comfort creator that they can connect with.
Yeah.
People aren't as, I would say, conscious as like, oh, well, is this edited exactly the right way I wanted it to look on my feed? I think it's a little bit more of just people are really pumping out content because they want to be able to connect with other people. Podcasting gives you that additional step to say, hey, I'm talking about this on my podcast today. Here's a little clip of what we're sharing, and then you can dive into the conversation a little bit more. So it's definitely a
Yeah.
great way to lead people into the podcast. I totally understand what you're saying. When you share things on social media, particularly politically, it can go
Right.
either way. And
Mhm.
you do see the tide shift has shifted a lot. So I
Oh my
think people are
gosh.
a lot less nervous
Hmm.
now. Um,
It's
but I
so
also,
crazy to see the difference,
Yeah.
and I think if you really capitalized on it in 2020, it's like, wow, it paid off because, now it's like we're like the majority, literally.
yeah,
When back
literally
Yeah,
we
then it was
are.
like you were in the
literally.
closet, like gosh, it was some crazy times, but here we are. And I also think like with Mal, her idea with the podcast, it was like a lot of people think conservative women are like boring, uptight, or whatever. They have their preconceived notions about us, but it's like we come in all shapes, sizes, and colors, and ideas, and we're not just like, hey, we agree on every single thing. It's like that's the beauty of being free opinion, opinionated and freedom of thought, because it's
Free
like,
thinker.
yeah, well, we might share the same beliefs and everything, but yeah, we also disagree on certain things, and we all don't just agree and look the same and act the same, because that would be so boring. So I think, to Mal's point, that also is a reason why, like, the podcast for me, it's been so fun, because we get to see not only our political commentary or whatever, but it's also just our personalities, and we're fun, we're cute, we're goofy.
Yeah, and I think
We're like,
showing
those are
that
the girls.
showing that in line is awesome that you moved this over to a podcast audience as well. And there's so much truth in that. The conservative movement gets a lot of not great PR because
Right.
I think there's a lot of across the board in both parties. There's a lot of the like extreme side of it, and then you have people that are just interested in maybe dipping their toes in what we're talking about and saying, hey, maybe I kind of align with this. Overall, we've seen such a trend to people leaning more towards the free thinking space. We're like, hey, you know what? Maybe this actually makes more sense to me than what's going on over here. When it comes to
Wait,
just,
can I say something about that real quick?
yeah, absolutely.
What I was going to say is, for me, especially like with Those Other Girls, I really want that space to be the space for the people who may have heard of the people who are a little bit more extreme, because honestly, sometimes they're the loudest, but they feel like they don't really align with them because of their quote unquote extremeness. I mean, people can say we're extreme too, but you guys know what I'm like referring to. But they still they still feel as if they do align with conservative values. They do agree that, Trump is what's best for the country for right now, at least. So they do agree with that, but they just don't want to be around the people who are just being too extreme. Like, I really want my space, like Those Are the Girls space, to be for those girls. And when we talk about topics, such as abortion or MAHA or children transitioning, things like topics like that, I want that space to be a space where we're talking about these things like with grace and in love, and we're just talking about facts. Like, we don't have to tell Mary Sue that she is ugly. Like, we don't have to tell her that. We can just say that, Mary Sue, you're wrong. And that's one of the things that I really wanted for the space to be, because that's also how we're going to get more people to agree with us. They have to be able to hear the arguments that we have. They have to be able to hear that we're correct in this thing, so that they can actually like come up with a good belief of their own. So
I think stating the facts, like you mentioned, is key. We've seen so much emotion-driven political stances where people are driven by an inaccurate social media post, their favorite celebrity telling them what to do, whatever it may be. And it's at the bottom line when you ask them, okay, so why do you feel this way? And they tell you it's because they saw something that said this, and it's not even the actual policy they're talking about. It's gotten so drastic where it's been like facts, like the facts are here. I think there is room for emotion and feeling when it comes to policy, and these are really heavy, hard topics to talk about. I'm not saying like disregard that, but I think it's important to lay the foundation. This is actually what we're dealing with, and draw your own conclusion from that based on how you feel about it or your values. It's so important to get back to that and to like the actual topic at hand, because I see so much inaccurate stuff going out on social media, and people are sharing these carousels that are totally incorrect, but they're in like a cute typography font, so they'll share it.
I was gonna say, and we also wanted to create like a lighthearted space because, like even like 2020 and post, COVID, everything was just so serious and so dark and so like, you know, so drastic that we just wanted to be like, okay, well, we just want to have fun, talk about, yes, we'll talk about serious issues, but like in a lighthearted, funny, and mix everything. And, it's like if you're having coffee with your friends, like that's how we wanted to feel like, or at least whenever I get on the mic, it's like that's what I want the audience to capture. Like, yes, we could talk about heavy, hard topics, but I personally, I'm not going to sit there and tell you everything in data. That is just not me. I'm not a data analytics person, but I am going to share my opinion and then let you investigate and figure it out for yourself. And also, I'm going to make you laugh along the way. So that's just also
and
what
I love that.
I just put out a video on my personal TikTok this morning, just reminding everybody to like take a beat before if you see, Pop Crave post something and it sounds outlandish and completely outrageous, I cannot believe it, then take a beat, because maybe it is outrageous and outlandish. Maybe, what Pop Crave said isn't the truth. Because I saw a video the other night of this woman, like, I mean, she was hyper. It was actually really sad about something that she thought was the truth. And then, you take 2 seconds to like do some research on your own, and it turns out that she was concerned about something that just it was a non-issue. So I just really encourage everyone listening to the pod. I mean, even listening to me, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I'll get things wrong. Not often, but it happens. I'm just joking. It happens.
you're like, I'm perfect in every single way.
Yeah, I mean, catch me if you can. But anyway, like look and do your own research just to triple check before you start, packing up, ready to move out of the country, or start making a bunch of rash decisions. That's another thing too. Just wanted to add.
Going off of what Isabel was saying, how it seems so polarizing for so long online. People are looking for that, honestly, like the middle ground of like, hey, we maybe don't align on some things, but there are other things that we can kind of see eye to eye on. It doesn't have to be like we're on this team, you're on that team. I think the conversation really has to be happening more often. Ultimately, it is we the people, and like we're supposed to be the ones that are, it's us and then the government. I think people forget that a lot too, where it's
And that's
like,
what we have to remember. Like, we're all Americans, no matter, like, we even talked about it before the election. We're like, no matter who's president, God is in control. And to be honest, we're not even going to meet them. I mean, sure, you can meet the president or whatever, right? But like, we're going to be with the people that serve us coffee, that we interact with on a daily basis, we ride the bus with, or whatever, right? Depending on which city you live in. So, and I think now that people were like, oh, a lot of people think are more in the middle and more right leaning. It's like now the conversation is like, well, what is it about these people that makes them think that way? So I think it is changing the way we interact with each other and kind of finally breaking the ice of like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't shun everyone that doesn't think like me, because apparently there's more people that think that way than I thought. So it's
right? And
always
that
good
was a surprise, I think,
to
to many.
hear Right, to hear different opinions and be like, okay, just kind of being more open-minded and not, there was this funny thing where it was like Obama and Trump were like talking and it looks like they were kicking it, and it was
Right.
funny because they were like, look, you guys are over here like freaking canceling your mom and your dad, and over here Obama and Trump are like talking and laughing and
Yeah.
ha ha he he, and it's just like it is funny because you're like, yeah, exactly, like we're not even going to interact with them on a daily basis, but we are going to interact with our neighbors and our friends and our colleagues and stuff like that. So I think
Yeah,
it
I
has
think
created a more like open space now, for sure.
yeah, we saw a lot of the cancel culture happening. Like you mentioned, how it happened to you. It happened to me too on Instagram. We saw a lot of the canceling happen for a long time. And mostly, I would say, I don't think this is not common knowledge. It was done towards one party, and the other party kind of just got to share whatever they felt like sharing. And it was like a gang mentality. We've discovered that one person feels this way, so we're just going to come after them. For, I think, Isabel, are you back on, Isabel?
Sorry, I'm back. It was my boyfriend calling me.
Oh, no worries, no worries. It just said you dropped for a second. The cancel culture, we saw that for so long, and then people slowly started like to come out of this. Where wait a minute, what are we even getting mad about? And like, as these years have gone on, it's, guess what? You are still working with these people that you claim to have so much differences from. But majority of the people voted one way, so you really have to open up your mind a little bit, I think, and say, hey, how come all of these people feel this way that I was so strongly against for so long? Something I noticed from my end was that politics for a while was getting really heavy and all consuming. And I personally made the decision to unfollow a lot of accounts that were, it seemed to be feeding a lot of negativity, just like how the media does. For me, that caused me to really step away from it, from talking about it a lot on social media. I just felt like it wasn't benefiting me in my own life and furthering me along with things that I wanted to get done, to discuss or to be another negative echo chamber, which is one of the reasons why I've pivoted a little bit on social media. I would love to know your take on this, and as you have gone through being political commentators in a way, but also talking about other topics, has it influenced you and the content that you're sharing?
I love this topic. I have so much to say, but I will not take up too much of everyone's time.
Please share.
So, I love politics. Well before Trump got into office, I was on my congressperson's advisory board in high school. We had a high school advisory board. I went for my high school when the DNC was in Charlotte to report on it. Like, in college, I entered the Supreme Court of the United States. Like, I have loved politics pretty much my entire life. Okay.
You're my president now.
Yeah.
No. I'd prefer to be vice president or first lady, not president. Oh God, that seems like an awful job. But first lady seems fun though. Anyway, I can talk about that another time. So yeah, love politics my entire life. I really do think that politics, when it's done correctly, can help people. I think that it is an avenue to change lives and an avenue to enrich your community and to give back. Like, politicians are public servants. That's something that I think we forget.
Yeah.
Your politician works for you. You don't work for your politician.
Right.
So I work in politics in a capacity that I'm not going to share, but I do work in politics. And so it like consumes my life. The last 2 or 3 years, I don't want to say that it stopped being fun. That's not the right word, but it did become a little bit, like you said, like very heavy. A lot of the commentators I had to unfollow as well. And I found myself getting mad at the commentators that are on my side because they were saying things, and there's a part of commentating where the fact of the matter is, the more outlandish and crazier you sound, the more you embellish things, the more money you make. Yeah. Now, does that sound fun? Absolutely. I would love to have tons of money. That would be great. But I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. That goes against my Christian morality. So blah, blah, blah. So I definitely understand taking a step back. I've had to take a step back in certain areas in my life with it because it does become all consuming. Mm-hmm. Politics have gone from, my brother was telling me about this book he read that kind of talked about how politics used to be something that we casually discuss to becoming like sports teams. People aren't really casual about their sports teams. They're if you're born into we have Panthers here in Charlotte, or I'll say Duke and Chapel Hill. If you're from North Carolina, you'll understand this. If you're born into a Duke family, you're Duke all the way. Chapel Hill, you can't even go to Chapel Hill for Sunday. Like it's a North Carolina thing.
Hmm.
Um, so that's what politics has become, and that is when it takes kind of, for lack of a better word, the fun out of it, and then it becomes all consuming, and then it's in your head, and then all you're thinking about is this and that, and I just think that like it's so important for all of us, and I do this myself, to take a step back, and like I said earlier, take a beat, make sure that what you read was the truth, and then realize like sorry, the cough. Sometimes there's literally nothing you can do, so you can't stress yourself over it too. I think that's another thing too. We get so, especially as women, and it is not a weakness, it is a strength. But we do get very emotional and consumed into things. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and realize you can't do anything about it right now, so you can't sit there and stress yourself. And watching who you are following, and this is the last thing I'll say about that. You like I said, there's people who are making tons of money saying some outlandish things. Maybe they have good intentions. I don't know. I'm not going to make assumptions on their intentions, but people make lots of money saying really outlandish things. You cannot get wrapped up in that. If you need to take a step back, it's okay. Once you get wrapped up in that, once you get, like I have a friend who I watched her, thank God she's out of it, but I watched her turn into like a scared, like shell of a person, because she just was listening to all this stuff and got into really all these other things, and like, you can't do this, you can't do that, oh, but where did this, they're coming to get, and you can't do that because you have to live your life. And the Bible says, do not be afraid.
Yeah.
It says God has not given a spirit of fear, but power and love and a sound mind. So you just have to sometimes just take a step back, and it's okay, and it happens, it absolutely happens, but just, it's okay to take a step back. That's why you should watch Those Other Girls, because while we'll talk about these topics, we'll also throw in other fun things, and we try to make it light
Like
and
pop
fun.
culture. Yeah.
Yeah, and pop culture. All right, that's it.
That's
That's my
very
spiel.
interesting, Mel.
Is
Love
that
it.
the same for you, Isabel? Have you unfollowed any
Uh,
accounts, or are you still
yes. I think it's funny because mine has been like the complete opposite. I was not into politics. I could care less. Like was not in any of that. Literally was a lifestyle queen, girly fashion. Like that's what I like to
Mhm.
talk about. Fashion, Jesus, food and places to go here in Houston. So my whole journey was that it was not until COVID that really did it for me. Like I was just, oh, okay, like there is certain things going on in our world, in our political world that affects us, and who we vote for and who we put in power really does matter. And that's kind of what opened my eyes to be more open about my views. So it wasn't that it turned me into something else. I've always believed the way that I believe. It was more of just like 2020 kind of exposed everything for me and just kind of tore that veil of like me living my life, like so subconsciously not even thinking about anything that would affect me. And then of course when COVID hit, everything was just kind of like, oh wow, like this is real. Like the people in power don't always have our best interests, and like to Mal's point, it really just made you think like, okay, why do I think the way that I think? What are my beliefs? And the people should be working for us, or the politicians should be working for us, not the other way around. So I started being more political on my Instagram, my social media, and of course I got a lot of backlash, got canceled, and that's when I realized, oh wow, like what how I think is actually very countercultural to what the mainstream
Mhm.
audience thinks and feels, right? So that was the big contrast in my personal audience, because I didn't come out as a political commentator. I didn't come out as a political girly that talks about politics. It was like, I'm a fashion girly, I talk about Jesus, I make you laugh, I post memes, like that was it. But then obviously 2020 things changed, and then yeah, I got really really into exposing everything, like sex trafficking, human trafficking, all that stuff. I was talking about abortion, everything, like where I stand, and all these topics. And while I think that I was able to, like, I'm able to withstand the backlash, but at some point you just, like to your point, it was like it got a lot of emotionally taxing. And it just wasn't fun for me anymore. And I was like, okay, like maybe I don't need to be posting about this 24/7, and there's a way that I can mix. I don't have to change who I am and my beliefs, but I can still keep it fun, lighthearted, and I can still stand up for what I believe in a way that's authentic to me and my audience. So it's not that I'm trying to hide who I am or my values or anything like that. It's just more like I don't need to be exposing it 24/7, and I just, to me, it got mentally and exhausting, and emotionally it took a toll. So I kind of had to step back, to your point, Bex, which is funny because I think we both had this conversation. We kind of switched gears around the same time. So like I
Yeah.
said, now I do love the podcast because I am able to express myself a little bit more. And so you get to see, oh, okay, this is who this person is and this is why they think the way that they do, and then here's a little bit more context versus me just posting something on my story, and then all of a sudden people are feeling certain ways, and it's not coming across in a way that I would like it to come across. And not only did I lose a someone that I could potentially, because at the end of the day, we're supposed to be glorifying God and pointing people to God, right? So if I'm making everyone my enemy, then I'm not really spreading, the good news. And that's kind of like my first main calling. It's like, am I showing people, Jesus and his love and mercy for other people, even though we don't think the same way?
Yeah.
So I kind of had to check myself a few times because I would get heated and I would get argumentative with people that would, not attack me, but like say mean things on comments and stuff. So I just had to take a step back. I was like, yeah, this is not fun anymore. And
Yeah.
so now I think it's just more creating content that's authentic to me and staying true to myself while also not, being shy about my beliefs. So yeah.
That's a great point. Finding that balance between both is something that a lot of us, like lifestyle bloggers, were struggling with for a little bit, where you still feel called to share your opinions because it is your personal brand, but you also at the same time look at it as a brand itself. You don't want it to be constantly flooding the newsfeed with negative energy. So I totally understand what you're coming from there. Do I want to talk about what's going on politically today, or is it better for me and my mental health and everyone else's to like talk about something that's a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit more fun? When it came to a lot of the commentators, it was like the false idols idea, where people were looking to these people to tell them what to do and how to live their lives and what they should be afraid of and who the enemy is and what you need to do.
Yes.
And to me, that just did not sit right, where I was like, wait a minute. If we're supposed to be the free thinker movement and I can only think the same way you do, doesn't that
Is that the
counteract the.
contradictory? Yeah, it's
Right.
contradicting.
And
That's literally what had happened a lot.
yes, and to that point, um, and I really hope I'm not sounding pretentious what I'm about to say. Like, if you know me, you know I'm not trying to sound pretentious. As someone who's like been at least conservative, at least like tangentially, like I will say because of the huge podcast that we all know about, or the huge Instagram account that we all know about, there has been a bigger sense of community. So there wasn't that before, and yeah, I'll say that. So someone who's kind of been a part of this space for a while, I think a lot of people when they come over, they don't leave behind some of their qualities that made. Okay, I'm trying to think of how to word this. People who were kind of followers when they were more left leaning, they sometimes bring that attitude of being a follower when they move over to the right. And I think that when you move over to the right, you're supposed to be more open minded and free thinking. But if you just kind of have more of a, for lack of a better word, like follower mindset, then you'll just follow right back into that if you're not checking yourself, if you're not like making those hard changes. So I think that has attributed a lot to, like you said, about the idolization of people. I think they idolize people on the other side. And now that they're on this side, they're idolizing the person on this side.
Yeah,
So yeah, and I don't want to sound like pretend. Like when I say that, I feel like I sound like as someone who knows. I'm not trying to sound like that. I'm just saying like this is something I've observed.
I think it's spot on about like the leaders and the follower mentality, and it's not. I don't think it's pretentious at all. I think there are people that are more willing to put themselves out there or to stand up for what they believe in, and then there are people that we saw within the last few years were the ones to not do anything and to not say anything or say this is wrong or hey, I don't agree with this, because they were too nervous based on what other people thought or whatever it may be, why they just chose to stay silent. And then we also saw the complete opposite side, where you saw people calling and ratting on their neighbors for having too many people over at their house. So it was like they were begging for someone to govern and control them, which is just mind-blowing to me because I, like you, have been, I would say, fairly knowledgeable of the political space pretty much my whole life. If you are someone that is leaning more towards the free thinking side, you do have to start to, and I know people use the term wake up, but you do have to start to wake up to things, maybe everything that's set in place. Like that's when you have to start questioning things and not just take things for face value as to what people tell you they are. And for a lot of people, that's really hard and they don't want to. And I think that
Yeah.
we see that a lot too.
And I
Yeah.
think I've seen this too in like the influencer space, like where the audience, it's almost like they have no boundaries when it comes to that. So you kind of have to, as the person that's like has a social media account, you have to kind of create those, because a lot of people are like, it's like, because you're posting about certain topics, it's like they demand for you to speak about every single topic. And I haven't seen it personally me, because obviously I'm not like a big influencer or whatever, but I've seen it on the like on the outside, and I'm like, gosh, like how like must their mental health be suffering? Because imagine being this big content creator and they're literally demanding you to speak about every single topic, and it's like, I'm not educated to speak on every topic. Not everyone should. I personally think that, like, if you're not super educated on something, like, it's okay not to say anything, like, because you
Mhm.
don't know. That's the thing with social media. It's like, especially with this new generation, they're creating all these social media justice warriors, and it's becoming kind of, it's not, it's kind of becoming kind of, it's unhealthy, because it's like almost like everybody feels like they need to talk about it, and they need to give out their opinion, and sometimes the best thing is to say nothing at all, because like I said, personally for me, it's like I don't want to talk about something I'm not educated on and I don't know a lot of, because then that's really just speaking out of my whatever, so yeah, it's almost like this, also this, people have like, oh, you owe us to share everything, every single little thing about your life and what you think and your beliefs, and you better post it now before we cancel you. Like, I've seen it time and time again, and that's just
Yeah.
not something like I would ever want to be a part of. Like, that sounds
And those
so.
apologies too, those like phony apologies. Oh, I'm so sorry that I did. Like, stop. Like, pull it together. I'm sorry, it's
Yeah,
No,
honestly,
I'm right there with you.
and
If
the
I
cancel
ever
culture,
get
they're
canceled,
not
I'm
gonna
gonna double
stop.
down. Even if
The
I don't
mob
agree
is.
anymore, I'm gonna double
Right,
down.
exactly.
yeah. I'm
The thing
not.
about the
We're not.
mob is they're not going to have mercy on you. They're going to
Correct.
No,
attack you,
you
and they're
cannot
going to
win.
keep going.
Yes,
Your
Correct.
apology is not going to be enough. That's when I say, I said what I said, and I'm standing on business, because
and that's
Right.
yes.
they're not going to stop. They're going to bully you
Right.
into like a freaking, whatever. So
Even if
that's
I
one thing that I
recognize I'm
have
wrong, I'm
noticed.
gonna keep saying it if you're gonna come after me because
Because
like
now it's like,
At that point, it's
yeah,
like,
nothing
yeah,
I
you're
can
like,
do will appease you. Yeah.
like I said what
exactly.
I said, and it's the internet. Whatever you put out there is there forever. So you got to be careful. And people are so quick with the screenshots and everything. So I don't know. And something that has changed, obviously as influencers, right? Like, I lost a lot of friends, I lost a lot of followers, I lost a lot of, brand partnerships. Like I said, I mean, maybe not so much now, because it's becoming, like I said, the majority, and we're now like the
Right.
popular cool kids, but back then we weren't. And like, I was losing brand partnerships left and right because of my conservative values. And that's the thing now. It's like, now you're not just Mal or Becca. It's like you are now who you voted for, who, what you stand for, and this and this and that. And that's just how it's evolved. So that's the way these like younger generation of people in social media, they're looking at these celebrities and all these things. And it's like, for me personally, it's kind of funny. Well, not funny, but in a way, it's like, yeah, these are normal people. What do you think was going to happen? They have their own values and beliefs. Like, they're not just going to think the same way you do just because you think that they do. Like, what? That's just so
Yeah, they
silly to
have
me, especially as being a Christian. You're like, you know, you're not supposed to make idols of people, because
to.
people will fail you. So it's just having like this like unrealistic expectation of these people that you see online, and you really don't know how they live in real life. So take, like me and Mal always say, take it with a grain of salt, because you don't know fully what that person does, or how they live and stuff like that. So I just think that's becoming really, really prominent in our social media culture right now. It's that people are just like, they don't just see you as a person, they see you as like what you believe in, who you voted for, et cetera, et cetera. Like, they're ready to take, you know know everything about you and your deepest, darkest secrets, which is, scary. But yeah.
Yeah, I think consumers of social media, it's a very different way to look at it versus us who use it for like a creator aspect. The consumers got the word accountability and took it and ran with it. And now every time something happens, or, well, you have to say something about this, which is, to me, it's like, why do you need the outside validation of someone else having the same opinion as you through an Instagram story? How is that going to help you and your life? If you feel one way about something, you shouldn't expect everybody else to feel the same exact way, or to, continue to share the echo chamber that you're sharing.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for us to see it too, as we're people that are actively creating and sharing things online, and we're more so than consuming it. I think if you're someone that consumes it, you can get so wrapped up in it easily. Creating that boundary is something that we're seeing a little bit, because people are starting to kind of wake up to a lot of things. But for a while, it was like social media was really just kind of, it became a pretty toxic place for a while, I would say.
And that's why some influencers, like, they were like, yeah, I'm out. Like, I know so many friends that were like, yeah, I'm not doing this influencer thing, because you either have to say what you believe in and get canceled, or say the thing that's popular, and then you're just like lying to yourself or whatever, or be in the closet. Either way, it was like a lose-lose situation. But now I think, and we were like, me and Mal, we had a conversation on our podcast like post-election. It was like interesting to see that there is positive coming out, like positivity out of this whole thing. Is like people are more open-minded. They're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should listen to this person that maybe didn't vote the way that I would have liked them to vote. And also it's like, okay, maybe they do make some kind of sense. And yeah, maybe the celebrity endorsements are not a way to win a presidential campaign. We saw like Beyonce and all of these celebrity endorsements were like, no, honey, we don't care. Like, the Americans aren't dumb. We have a mind, and we can think for ourselves, and we can make rational, educated, decisions. And I think that's the positive that came out of it, to know that, hey, Americans are, smarter than, whatever everybody else thought, that we thought that they were just going to throw a celebrity and slap their name on it and they were going to win. So,
yeah. We also talked about this a little bit in one of the episodes that I just shared, but basically the tide has shifted so much from celebrities to influencers, where the attention has changed. And I think a lot of celebrities are doing things, whether it's a PR stunt or not. You could look at what's going on right now with the whole Blake Lively situation, but they're doing things to try to stay
that's my
relevant.
Roman Empire right now.
Yeah, they're doing things to stay relevant and to stay in the public eye, because they realize that a lot of them missed the boat when it came to being an influencer or to sharing things on social media. There are some celebrities that took it and did a really great job with it. And there's others that were like, oh, I don't need to get on this. I have PR. This is where my attention's going to stay on.
Yeah.
And now it's really shifted to influencers. Influencers are also getting a lot of the opportunities that a lot of these celebrities were in the past. And people are realizing, why would I listen to this actor that I haven't seen in a movie since who knows when?
Yeah, I think I think, to your point, like, I think we learned that, like, this is where, like, our kumbaya moment, like, we are stronger together, and, we have more power than we think we do, right? Like, we are able to, like, individual journalism, right? Like, you think about the campaigns that both the presidents running for the election, put out, and it was like, a lot of it was, individual journalism. People weren't listening to the mainstream media. People weren't listening to CNN and, NBC and even Fox News. People want the truth, and people are hungry for that. And that's why, certain things that may have worked in the past are not working now, because social media has changed the game. And, like, these celebrities, to your point, it's like, yeah, they're just not, they're so they live such a different life. They're not relatable, and more, now more than ever, people crave, being relatable and authentic. And it's like, yeah, me and Beyonce, we don't share anything in common. So, like, for them to think that the American people would be dumb enough to fall for it, it was like, yeah, we showed you guys. So,
how do you feel now as as conservative, leaning on many situations? I won't do like a blanket statement that you're conservative on everything, but as someone who leans typically more conservative when it comes to your content and the policies that you stand by, how are you feeling in 2025 post the inauguration? How things are going so far with the MAGA and MAHA movement? Are you actively absorbing anything that's going on, or are you sitting back now? Like, what is your take on what's going on right now?
Great question again. I have been looking at a lot of the executive orders, and I've been seeing a lot that I like. Now, obviously, like you said, like, I am center right, I am conservative. Obviously, I'm a human being, so there might be some things that are completely conservative to some people. or, extreme, like my abortion stance, someone might call it extreme. So there have not been every single thing I've seen. I haven't been like, yeah, that's right, go ahead, MAGA. But I am encouraged. And more than anything, I am encouraged at seeing that people, though I mentioned earlier about the person who freaked out, I do feel, at least on my TikTok feed, I do feel as if there are people who are thinking a little bit more. Now, there are people who are still very much like, under a spell or whatever, but I do think people are thinking more and they're becoming more open-minded to more conservative beliefs.
Yeah.
And they're seeing how it can trickle down and like help everyone. Because I do think that conservatism in general is better for the country. I think that it, I'll just leave it at that. I do think it is better for the country. So I'm excited for it. The Maha movement, I honestly don't know too much about it. I want to get more into it. I'm in like a weight loss journey. So like in my head, I'm like, I don't really care about toxins. I just need to not be fat. So like I don't really pay attention like a lot of other people are, but I am learning more about it. Actually, I'm looking for someone to talk about for those other girls. But I like what it stands for, and I do think like, listening to people, Lauren and Michael, a lot of what they, like, that's honestly where I get a lot of like my Maha movement type of things from, is listening to them. And listening to them, there are a lot of things in our foods and a lot of things that are not just, or even like with insulin resistance. I had no idea what that was. I found out that I had insulin resistance, so that's what was taking so long. That's why I was struggling losing weight. Something I struggled with my entire life, but turns out I had insulin. Didn't know. But it's these type of things that like you don't know because you aren't tested. Why don't they test for it? Because, I guess now I'm getting super personal. I have never been pre-diabetic, or I don't have diabetes. So if you do, that's when they test for insulin. But I've never had that. All my tests have, since I was a kid, even though I've struggled with my weight, all my tests have pretty much been normal. So they're not going to test for that. But, I have to go outside of my insurance, outside of the doctors, to get someone else to look deeper into it. So things like that, from my perspective, like that needs to be, we need to rehaul that.
Yeah.
I paid way more money to get these tests done to find out something that is simple, that I could have gone and been covered by my insurance. But because, a dietitian told me once, like, I want to say I was like in college or high school, a dietitian said something like, it costs more money, or it is easier. No, you make more money when people are continuing to be sick.
Yeah.
So that's why dietitians, nutritionists, going to specialists, when it comes to like weight stuff, that's why it costs so much. That's why insurance doesn't cover it, because if I actually did get diabetes, like, if I kept on this track and got diabetes, then they'd make money from me.
Yeah.
Instead of like trying to help me figure out what's going on with my body. So anyway, it sounds like RFK Jr. is going to help with that. It's going to do some things, like the things he's going to shift around in the Health and Human Services. He's going to fix that. So fingers crossed, but I'm excited for this new era, because I also think that, like, as a content creator of conservative content, it'll be good for me as well, because I think people are more open. They want to hear more. And that's also going to lead to people building relationships. So I do think this is all in a positive. We're all going in a good upward mobility, praying to God it can stay in this direction, at least for the next 4 years. So yeah.
The promises that have been made based on the MAGA and Maha movements, that they happen and follow through. And we are seeing a lot of people really looking into it a lot, because the free thinker mindset doesn't just stop when a promise gets made. It has to keep going until things actually get implemented. We are seeing, I think, a lot of people look into things more. And I think the two movements align very well, because one was really based on thinking for yourself, and then the other movement was, hey, we have to look at other aspects of our life. Overall, there's so many facts that movement has shared, whether it be about our life expectancy being not as high as it is over here, the amount of money we spend on, I think it's 90 cents of every dollar is spent on pharmaceuticals for our healthcare budget, and the amount of like prescribing, and just, it feels like people are People have woken
Because,
up to all of this, I would say, from
yeah.
COVID. You're not just telling me politically what I can and can't do. You're telling me what I can and can't do from a health perspective, and that you want me to do something that I'm not comfortable with. And the government's now overreaching into that area.
Yeah.
So I do think something needs to happen with that movement. And actually, there has to be more visibility into what's going on. There has to be a lot more visibility into, like, even just childhood schedule, things like that. Like, people don't know what's going on anymore. They're not informed. And
Like, think about how you just go about your life, like pre-COVID, where it's like you were just blinded. I mean, I can speak for
yeah,
myself. You're just blinded by everything. Okay, give me the vaccines. Okay, give me that. All right, whatever.
fluoride,
All right, ask
toothpaste.
for this. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think, yeah, I'm actually very hopeful, and I think this is, our time to shine. No, I'm just kidding. But I do think, like to Mal's point, super hopeful and hopefully continues to stay this way. And like you said, this the battle has just begun. We got to continue to advocate for the things that we feel passionate about. And this is to everyone, like I always say, even if you don't think the way we do or whatever, you know, go and serve your community, go and, serve what you're feeling led to. Um, Pour into and what you're passionate about, but like do something, right? So the I think it's like, the work has just begun. We got to keep pressing on these politicians to work for us and not the other way around. And to the Maha movement, that is very exciting, and it should be nonpartisan, really, because
Yeah.
I think it all starts from within. Like, if our and that's the whole thing, when you realize that there are people who are wanting to have us sick and weak and think like everyone else and group think and be a follower, then you realize you got to get out of the matrix, and you have to. It all starts with you and how you feel about yourself, because if you take care of yourself, you take care of yourself from the inside out, you realize that, hey, this isn't this isn't right, and everything trickles down from that. But it all starts like with you. So I agree. And then our kids deserve better, even if none of us are moms yet, but I think it's great that we're doing what we can for the future of not only our children, but like the children and generations to come. So I'm
Yeah, there's a
excited.
lot of trust from older generations in a lot of these systems. Our generation, and I guess the one just above us, really stepped in and starting to question everything that's going on. And I think
Yeah.
for a while it was kind of just like on autopilot. Whatever they sell in the grocery store is fine because it's on the shelf. Whatever the FDA cleared is fine because they cleared it. Whatever the doctor's telling me to do, I should do it because the doctor says to do it. And I think that opening up and of your mind, hey, wait a minute, I'm just doing this because someone else is telling me to do it, doesn't sit
Yeah.
well with a lot of us. And that questioning of authority and the status quo is something that is really rebellious. Typically, the Conservative Party was like that stuffy old party that, was just going to go along with big corporations. We've
Yeah.
seen such a total switch where, like, rock and roll suddenly became like, oh, we're going to just do whatever the man tells us to do, which is ironically the opposite of what they always pushed. So that was
Right.
really interesting to see. But so as we're talking about politics right now, I know we dove into that a little bit, but when it comes to recording your podcast, how do you decide what topics you're discussing, and how do you find that balance between politics and more lighthearted topics?
um, how do I find the balance? I do. I
Sandwich
think.
method. That's about us.
Say
Just
that
kidding.
again.
I like the sandwich method. You'll start something light and then heavy and then end it with the light.
Kind of.
Or you're like when you're giving someone a criticism, Isabel, when you're like, it's really good, but it's not good this way, and then you tell them like another compliment. Is that what you're going on?
Like I honestly I pick like things that I'm interested in. And I pick things that I think are interesting,
Mm-hmm.
that like my audience would find interesting, but I don't know. I think it's also like, not to brag, but I feel like I'm a decent balance too, because if you know me, you know that being pro life is like a huge part of like who I am, and that fight is important to me. But I also just went to a Justin Bieber night and had a great time, danced, made my jewelry for it, sang. So like I don't know. I think it's part like finding that balance is like realizing that me as a person, I am a balance of both, and then the average person is a balance of both. I think that's another thing to just remember, that like, and this is what I've learned doing the podcast and meeting people over the years, is we put people in boxes and we say, okay, this person is that particular thing. They think this one thing, so that means they think 60 other things, because this one thing means you think 60 other things, and it's just not true. Right. I do pro-life activism with sometimes with a group called POW. They are a lot of them are leftists, blue hair, quote unquote blue hair, like the exact opposite of what you would think. But they are as pro-life. They're the ones doing a lot of activism, and like we might disagree on one or two things, but then we'll end up agreeing on something else. Because like the fact of the matter is, we are all like contain multitudes. I think that's from a movie, but we contain multitudes of different things. So like I try to incorporate that into the mix, and I do try not to do too, like if I do a politic heavy episode, I try to at least throw in one like dumb story, or one like let me not say dumb, because I think they're always interesting, one pop culture story, just to like balance it out a little bit.
A little bit more fun, a little bit more like easy to talk about.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, really quick, sorry.
Are those topics from social, or do you just come up with them, like for the lighthearted topics? Like,
I look on Twitter. I go to Evie, that magazine website. Sometimes I go to People. Yeah. Sometimes, like, if things are going on TikTok, like, there's a video that's going viral, I want to discuss that. It is also, a lot of times, it's things that, like, have happened to me throughout that week, and I'm like, I really want to share my opinion on that. At least I have a mic. Like, sometimes is how it goes.
To Riverside, you go.
Yeah, to Riverside.
No, that sounds great. I think that balance is something that helps to keep that audience connection. If it's super political heavy, you don't feel like you get to know that person. When you're connecting with a podcast to follow along with and to stay in the loop with, you're allocating a lot of your time, and you do want to feel connected to whoever is speaking to you behind that mic. So I think that's super important. Is there any advice you would offer to someone looking to grow their personal brand? And it doesn't have to be a political space, just anybody that's saying, hey, I think I want to start putting myself out there.
Yeah, I think
it's about to.
Advice for anyone who wants to put themselves out there. Mm-hmm. I think just doing it. I think that's like the first step. Even if like your first episode sorry. Even if the first episode you end up not even like publishing, I think just starting is so important. And then kind of like starting and not caring about what other people have to say. And that part is the hardest part. Like, I probably come off as like the most confident person in the entire world, but I'm not. And the reason why I think I come off with that, because I pretend to be. And sometimes you have to do that to
fake it till you make it.
Yeah, you fake it till you make it. I really, believe it or not, I honestly I don't necessarily like when people disagree with me. I prefer for everyone to agree with me. But you have to not care. There has to be part of you that's like, whatever, this is my opinion, this is how I think, I do not care. So yeah, just do it, and then just don't care. And then maybe have one or two people just tell one or two people that will be excited for you. Because sometimes you just need that friend that's just gonna encourage you to do it, whether it's good or bad. Sometimes you need that friend.
You need people in your circle that are going to cheer you on, and they may not get why you're doing it or what you're doing, but you need that support system. It is very helpful for people that are a little bit more nervous to put themselves out there, and your why has to be a lot stronger than your fear of looking silly for everyone else.
100%. And to the friend thing, I have friends that will probably never, ever, ever listen to the podcast, but they will tell everyone they know that I have a podcast. They will show up if I say, hey, I'm doing typically I'll do a little dinner in town on the anniversary. They'll come, can't tell you what I've talked about. They'll say something about abortion, I'm sure, but they won't but they're still kind of supportive. And I think that is also fun. And that also helps you keep going. And to the point about your why, you have to have a why that you care about, and it can't be, I want to be famous.
Right.
Though, I'm not going to lie and say that's not not necessarily fame, but you guys know what I mean. I'm not going to lie and act like I don't want any recognition. That's dumb. Obviously, I want more than 2 people listening to the podcast, but if that's the only reason why I'm doing it, it's not going to be successful. It's just not. Because, it's going to come off. You're going to come off as someone who wants that.
it's all about like the value that you're providing that really helps people gravitate towards whatever you're sharing. As we wrap up this episode, I know we've already been recording for an hour. I want to do a quick rapid fire Q&A.
Okay.
And I don't know if Isabel's still on
fun.
the call or if she's
No,
not.
I'm in here. I was gonna
let me
say,
see, she messaged us.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I promise this will be super quick. This is just a quick.
Wait, guys, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
So she
I'm
did
here.
not message us.
I'm here.
I bet her phone died.
No,
Yikes.
Okay.
my mic is on. Wait.
Yeah.
Quick little rapid fire Q&A. I'm going to say a name and then yes or no or a this or that type deal and just rattle off the first thing that comes to your mind. So,
Okay.
Elon Musk, yes or no?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Learn more about that. I actually am kind of leaning on to what you're saying, so I kind of get what you're talking about here. Zuckerberg, yes or no?
New Zuckerberg, yes.
Interesting.
The new one.
The new
And
version.
I'm going to say something very controversial. I think he is looking handsomer.
Oh, okay. Conservative political fashion, hot or not?
Hot.
Yeah, I think it's looking really good this year. I mean, the
Yeah.
inauguration outfits were.
Yeah.
I was obsessed. I mean, I'm here for this. Melania always crushed it with her outfits, but I'm so excited for like also our second lady too. Just
That
crushing.
coat, obsessed.
Yeah.
Loved her coat. The
Love
pink
the
coat.
coat. So I am all about that. I'm also all about Oscar de la Renta actually sharing it and
Yes.
brands now that are. It's now cool to talk about, you know, the pretty conservative girls. So
Yeah.
favorite social media platform.
Instagram, I guess.
Yeah, I'm on there with you. In a weird place now, but it's
Yeah. I think it's going to come back.
it'll come back. Botox, yes or no?
No.
Sweat sets, yes or no?
No.
Cocktails or mocktails?
Cocktails.
Late nights or early mornings?
Early mornings.
Favorite politician? First one that comes to your head. Can be around now, can be not anymore, whatever, throughout history.
Okay. Nikki Haley.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah. I actually lost a lot of followers for saying conservative followers. for
Yeah,
saying that.
I could, yeah.
Yeah. She's controversial.
She is controversial. And the skinny jeans coming back, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of here for that too. There was a while where it was like, no, we couldn't have them, and now they're back. And
Yeah.
Isabel has joined us back in portrait
I'm
orientation.
so sorry, guys. Y'all have like 3 good minutes of me because my phone's like overheating. Ugh.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right, really quick. We're just going to do the rapid fire Q&A. This will probably take a minute. So I'm
Okay,
just going to
okay.
rattle this off. You give me a yes or no. Okay.
Ooh, fun.
Elon Musk, yes or no?
Oh, I have to. I don't even know what to say.
In the middle? Not sure.
Middle.
No, okay. The new version of Zuckerberg. Yes
No.
or no? Still don't trust him. I still don't trust him either. I think this is a weird front he's putting up. Conservative political fashion of 2025. I'm talking
Yes.
inauguration, everything like that. Hot or not? Yes. Okay. Favorite social media platform?
TikTok, but it got banned. Just kidding. I don't know.
It's back. It's back after.
Oh,
you know,
TikTok.
5 hours.
TikTok, even though I don't have it because I accidentally deleted the app.
Oh, okay.
What? I cannot. Okay.
I
can't
know,
believe you
I know.
deleted
I
it.
know, Mel.
I've been sending you stuff. That makes sense now.
I deleted mine so long ago. I actually only really ran my cat's account, and that one took off for a while. And I was like, all right, there's only so much of this I can do. Botox, yes or no?
No. Look at me like, no. I'm all sad.
Sweat sets, yes or no?
Yes.
Cocktails or mocktails?
Cocktails.
Late nights or early mornings?
Early mornings. I'm not a night owl. I am not. I want to be a night owl, but I'm not.
Yeah, I'm like exhausted at like 10. I'm like, all right, well, today's over. Favorite politician?
Mal. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
Yes.
I want to say she's a politician, but she's big in the pro-life. So Lila Rose.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I should have said her. That
I,
was good.
I got to meet her and take a picture with her, and she's amazing.
Yes, yes, she's doing so much. And are you team skinny jeans coming back or no?
No, because I'm already have really long, skinny legs, so I don't like them on me.
Interesting. That was like such a hot topic in fashion where people were like, they're gone, don't wear skinny jeans anymore. And now it's like, oh, they're back. You can wear them
Yeah,
again.
well, if they're over the boots, like over the high knee boots, then yes. But other than that, no, I'm not a fan of them because I
See,
feel like my body shape is not meant for them. I
and
love a
then
boyfriend jean.
for my body shape, I can't. I've tried those like kind of like not bell bottoms, but like the rounder bottom ones that are kind of like wide on you. I'm short and I'm chubby, so it looks. I mean, I look like it's just awful. So I prefer skinny jeans.
I like
Oh,
I actually like a straight leg jean. I feel like
straight
some
leg
of the
is
skinny
good.
jeans, straight leg is good. Like boot cut, I think looks good. Um, but it's so hard because I feel like yeah, for a while it was like every time I would go shopping for jeans, it was all wide leg jeans, and those have to fit like
Yes.
really right and be like the right style and the right fit, and then like I don't know, or sometimes it just wasn't flattering, and then there was all
Or
these yeah, it was
you
hard to
gotta
find
dress
like
for your body type and for the occasion. Like I don't
yeah
want to look like a farmer every day, but sometimes,
yeah.
yes, I'll go to the park
100%.
in my farmer pants.
All right,
Or
well
holes
thank you
with
both so much.
jeans.
Oh,
Sorry.
do you want to add what else is
No,
that?
that was it. I was gonna say holes with jeans. I'm not a fan of because, yeah, I have to take
Oh,
them. Like I have to work and it's casual, but it's like if I wear skinny jeans or not skinny ripped jeans, it just looks like I came from back from painting my house. But anyways,
got
okay, that
it.
was it.
Yeah, sometimes I like a ripped jean. It
I
depends. If I'm
love
going to
ripped
like the beach,
jeans.
then I'll do a ripped jean, like a casual day.
Yeah,
But
for
yeah, for
sure.
work, definitely like a dark wash, like high rise,
Yes.
like a nice flattering pair of jeans. That's what I'll do.
I don't wear jeans to work, but I probably would wear like regular ones.
Hmm.
I wear
Yeah, you can't do
dresses.
the ripped jeans for work. That's
Yeah.
a big no there. But thank you guys so much for taking the time to join my podcast today. I had such a great time catching up with you all. I know we could probably talk for hours on end. So you're welcome
Yeah.
back on the podcast anytime. We just touched on some of the topics, but I'm sure we could dive into them a little bit more. But yeah, I will go ahead and add your show in the show notes if people want to go and follow along to those other girls. But
Yay.
while we're on the podcast, if you want to just add your Instagram handle or your social media handle and just let everybody know where they can follow you.
Yes, so those are the girls podcast is the those are the girls one everywhere, and then Life is Malpal is my personal on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook's my first name, but yeah, Life is Malpal.
Awesome. How about you, Isabel?
Mine is Style and Smile across all social media platforms, so TikTok, Instagram, and I don't have Twitter anymore or X, whatever.
Okay.
And that's about it. And thank you so much for having us in your show. We had a
Yes,
great time.
thank you,
Of
thank you, thank you,
course.
thank
Thank
you.
you.